Alright, hi everyone, this is Paulo from F1 Virtual, and today we're going to do our first video, our first tutorial of how to build tracks for Grand Prix 4. It's a game, it's quite an old game already, a game we all love, and I have worked with building with tracks for GP4 since 2005, and we formed the F1 virtual team in 2006. And we have come and gone quite a few times, and we hope you all enjoy this. We're going today to cover some of the very most basic things about modifying the files in the game. So at first, I'm going to show you that I have created this folder right here that I've called Grand Prix 4 tutorial. It's an exact copy of a clean install of the game. So I have my GP4 installed and running in another folder that I use for playing it. But for this tutorial, and it's something I recommend you do when modifying the game, is that you create a copy of the entire GP4 folder in another section. Then you use that copy to do your work. So why is that? The three reasons mainly. The first, when modifying the files from the game, something will go wrong at some point in time. That's almost 100% sure that you will do something that breaks something. So if you already have a heavily modified game with lots of car sets and new tracks, you don't want to lose that because you are modifying something. So by keeping this copy separately, that you have no danger of doing anything wrong to your main installation of the game. You can just copy the entire folder. It works as usual. You don't need to do anything special. Here you can see that I have GPX patch installed already in this folder. Other than that, it's the vanilla game. It's just the original original patch. Sorry. Uh, so it's game version 1.02 and GPX patch. Nothing more, nothing less, except for these folder tools that I'm going to cover right in a minute. Which are the basic tools that we will need for modifying the game files. So that was the first reason. You don't risk breaking something in your main installation. The second reason I do this, and it's mainly the reason I use a clean install to make modifications, is that because it's faster. When you are making tracks, you will be testing the track dozens, maybe hundreds of times. So if you use the original game files, you can be sure it loads quickly. So the original game files are quite small, and the game loads quickly. And if you're doing that time after time, if you were using a heavy car set with, let's say, a car's WOD of uh, hundreds of megabytes, you may lose a lot of time because it adds up. It will not bother you once or twice, but we will be testing the tracks a lot of time. That's why I prefer to use a clean install. And third reason is because if something goes wrong, you can be sure it's your files, it's not the game files. Because if the original game works correctly in your PC, and the only modification that you're doing, that you're using, is the one files that you made, then you have sure it's that file you modified that is causing the trouble. It's not another mod you installed, it's not another track, another car that may be causing trouble. So okay, I have then built this folder here. This GP4 tutorial folder will be my main work folder for this series of videos, and I have created this folder here called tools. Inside here, the three main tools we will be using don't really need anything more than that, at least in the first stages. So the tools I have downloaded and put here are GP4 Builder, Text Resizer, and WAD Updater. You can get these three tools right here from grandprixgames.org. If you go here to the forum, this link, jump to forum, downloads, Grand Prix 4, GP4 editors and utilities. So here you can see GP4 Builder, Text Resizer, and WAD Updater. Just open here each one of these, download, and then extract in the folder where we'll be using them. You don't need to install anything. I believe WAD Updater specifically needs administrator rights in Windows 8 and 10, maybe Windows 7 also, so make sure you got that. So here are the files for each one of them. Again, you don't need any kind of installation, just extract the files here and you will be good to go. The next thing before you do anything else is to create backups of your files. I will create a backup folder right here, and now I will sort here by file type. So what will I put in that backup? The GP4 executable, the main executable of the game, and all the .wad files. I'll call them WAD files, don't know if that's correct pronunciation, but all these WAD files, WAD files, and then GP4 executable, and the circuits folder. If you're doing anything with tracks, these are the files that you need to revert to if something goes wrong. Again, if you have another folder with a clean install of GP4, you can grab the files from there. You don't need to make these backups, but it's more organized to keep this work folder separate from everything else. So I'll just copy here those files and paste them into backups. So there they are, and I don't do anything with those. They're just here for me to grab them back if something goes wrong. There are other files that you may modify later while creating tracks, while building tracks. We'll cover that later when they come up. But for starters, these are the most important backups. Okay, so as you have already noticed, you can see there is a WAD file for each track in the game. The 17 tracks that were in the original version of the game, they correspond to the 17 tracks that we had in the 2001 Formula 1 season. And also here at the circuits folder, we already have these 17 files that also correspond to the 17 tracks that were raced that season. So in case you have any doubt, this is the Wikipedia page for the 2001 season. So these are the numbers that correspond. Oh, I lost that. To each track. So this file here, S1CT05, corresponds to the circuit of Barcelona, so Catalunya, Barcelona. The number 9 is the Nürburgring. So each file here, these DAT or DAT, I don't know, the DAT files each correspond to one circuit, and we also have here these WAD files. So This here is GP4 Builder. Let me just open that. GP4 Builder, and you can open these dot files. So let's open here the file number 8, which is the track for Montreal. The dot file are basically a file that stores the skeleton of the track, if you will. You can see here, and just let me just tell you what I'm doing with the mouse. I'm doing here holding left click with the mouse, so I can move the view, and if I hold the right button of the mouse, I can go up and down. So I'm using these two mouse buttons to move my view in GP4 Builder. So you can see here, if you come very close, you can see that file is made of these numbered sectors, the sequence of track sectors, we call them. They are basically as I said before, the skeleton of the track, this sequence of sectors. So this is that file. It contains also basically every area that you can drive your car is stored in the that file. So we have here, you can see that each sector extends up into the truck walls, and you have here the curbs, the white line. It basically tells you the limits of the track that you can play on. And also we are following here this white line. This is the ideal racing line, which is the line that the computer controlled cars follow in the game, and also the line that you follow when you are playing with keyboard. Okay, that is that file. Just a quick overview. We'll be going deeper into each one of the most important files as we go through the tutorial. One thing you might notice is that there are no holes in the driving surface, except for this one here separating the track and the pit lane. It will be important later, but okay. So this is that file. Contains the driving surface, the pit lane, the ideal line, also the track cameras I stored here. And again, we will be returned to that when you go into deeper detail about the file formats that we have in the game. The other file that we have for each track is these WAD files, which we cannot open them directly. We have to use the WAD updater to open them. I'm going to open WAD updater here, and here we have choose GP4 WAD to work with. So let me see, I'll open Montreal again. Here it has chosen the WAD, so I can extract the WAD file. The WAD is a container file, much like a zip file, for example. So I'll create another folder here called work Montreal, and I'm going to extract the Montreal WAD file into this folder. So done already. It was very quick. So let me see what happened here. So this is the folder that I created, and these are the subfolders that I contained inside the WAD file. We have here fonts, maps, and samples. We're going first at maps and Montreal 2001. Every other WAD file for tracks has the same structure. So for example for Interlagos, it will be Maps Interlagos 2001, and this is the folder that we'll be spending the most time when building tracks. So we have here, let me sort by type again. We have these bin files, zip file, code file, a bit of some files here that are specific for each track. We have lots of these text files that are textures. We also have the weather file. Again, other types of files that we'll be covering later, and also these TGA files that are the reflection maps. But anyway, the most important here is this GP4 file. Let me go back then to GP4 builder. And now I'm going to the folder that I extracted, and I'm going to open the GP4 file. Here we can see already the types of files that GP4 builder recognizes. It's this CFP, a co, a GP4, and these bin files. So let's open the GP4 file. Alright, you can't really see right now, but the GP4 file contains all the 3D objects that are contained in our track. So let me just going here, display, graphics, turn wireframe on, and here you can see it a little better. You can recognize here the track, the starting section of the track, the grandstands, some buildings around here, the main pit building. These structures here are trees. Go back. You can also see around the track there are meshes for the terrain. Oh, it's not really useful in this state. We can't really see what is what here in this view, because we haven't opened the textures. The textures, just open. These text files contain the textures for every 3D object in the track, but GP4 Builder doesn't recognize them. You have to convert them to TGA files so we can view them into GP4 Builder. So let's do that. Let's close GP4 Builder for a moment, and let's open. Go back here to the tools, text resizer. Sorry. Okay, text resizer. It's as the name implies, it's a software that opens text files. So I'll go there to that folder I was working on, Montreal, Maps Montreal, and then open any of the text files. It doesn't really matter which one I open for what I'm going to do. So here, these textures here is probably one of the, I don't know how that's called in English, but one of those circles that they put after the curbs to stop corner cutting. So what I can do over here is to save this file to a TGA, and when I have the TGA file with the texture, I can open it, I can visualize it in GP4 Builder. But Text Resizer has a very useful feature right here, which is convert all text to TGA. and by clicking here it will automatically choose all of the all of the text files that were in the same folder as this one here that I opened, and it will create a new folder with all of these textures converted to TGA. So let's just click save here. It will create a folder called Montreal 2001 TGA files. Let's just do it for now. And here you see the progress. There are 455 text files in that folder, so we have to wait a little while it's converting all the textures. And while this is converting, I'll go back to GP4 Builder and open the other two files that are also very important for track building. The first one is the bin file. You can see here there are files for track, pit lane, and pit verge. Let's open the track. You can see that's basically the tarmac surface. Oh, it has opened all three files at once. Good. It's basically the tarmac surface. The bin file controls inside the game how the sun reflects on the tarmac, how markings of white paint in the grid markings, white lines, how they appear, and also rain patches. For example, there are a few sectors here that are under a bridge, so they are set here not to get wet from rain. It's something you do at the bin files. So a bin file controls basically these three things that are sunlight reflections, the rain, and the white lines and other markings on the tarmac. I didn't need to close that. Okay, let's open now the code file. The code file, it stores basically how each surface behaves when you drive over it. And if you remember, the that file has all the driving surface, but it only discriminates between the track and not track. Let's say something like that. So here the code file, it stores, oh, this is a gravel trap, this is grass, this is a service road, so it should drive like tarmac. And there is a fourth type of surface that is the hard surface. I don't think we have it in this here in this track, but a hard surface is something like concrete. So you have these four different types of behavior: tarmac, grass, gravel, and hard or concrete. So in shortly speaking, the dat and the code file, the one that's open here, they control what you feel in the game, how you drive, how everything behaves, while the GP4 and the bin files control what you see in the game. Basically, something like that. Oh, let's go back here to okay. Text resizer is done. So I'm going to open the GP4 file again. Here you can see that the TGA files folder was created in the same folder as the GP4 file. That is good because GP4 Builder will recognize this folder right here and will load the textures from that folder. And here it is. It is much more like the track that we are used to see in the game. So again, here you can see all the 3D objects, also shadows. curbs, the bridges, the trees, everything is here on this dot file. And while we're here moving our view, just show a couple more commands for visualizing here. If you hold the Alt key and press and hold also the left mouse button, you can rotate your view. And if you hold Alt and press the right mouse button, you can zoom in or out. And you can see very far here that there are a lot of objects up into some fixed distance, and beyond that we have this kind of 2D, two-dimensional horizon that has all the faraway buildings and landscape that we are not close enough to the track to be relevant in as a 3D object. Okay, one thing else you need to know about GP4 Builder is this document right here. It's the GP4 Builder user guide. We have one for text resizer as well. We have one for web updater as well. But the one for GP4 Builder is by far the most comprehensive, the longest one, because of all the features that GP4 Builder has, while text resizer and web updater are basically one screen and everything you need is there at that single screen. You can learn everything by yourself. So in GP4 Builder user guide has really a lot of content, everything you know about the software, about the tool. It's really a very complete guide. I recommend everybody that wishes to take track building seriously reads the GP4 Builder user guide, and I myself find myself going back to this guide every now and then, because there's always a feature you forget how it works, or even something you don't know how it works. And it also has these nice sections here called in practice. There are very useful notes from Lohan, the creator of GP4 Builder and also text resizer and web updater. There are generally good tips that we as track builders have come across after much experience. Oh, it's nice, some nice touches here about how to use the tools. Okay, so this wraps up the preparation of the tools, what you need to know. We're going to do now some very basic modification in this one here, the Montreal track, just so we can see GP4 Builder in use. Let's say we will move some trees from here to there, maybe change a couple of sponsor signs, just do something that we can show in game, some very simple things. Then that will be the content for today. This more like of an introductory lesson. Okay, so once you got your files shown here in GP4 Builder, you can just modify any object within it, within any track, except for Imola. Imola is a very special case. If you want to do something, don't do it at Imola. It's a completely, not completely, but a very different structure from the other tracks. It has some things that are used there that are not used in other tracks. So let's keep it out of Imola for now. If you ever need to do an update of Imola, there are other things that we should be careful about. So, as I said before, let's do something real simple here. For example, moving a tree. We get this tree right here, and we can choose objects with the left mouse button. Just click it once, and we will select. And you can also see it has many objects here have disappeared. It's because this button here it says show selected scene only. GP4 files are separated into scenes that group similar kinds of objects. These scenes exist for two reasons mainly. One is because the way that the files are structured. Each scene has a limit of how many vertices, many faces, many meshes you can have inside each scene, and also for keeping things organized. Let's say you want to, right here on this grandstand, you want to do something with the seats, not with the structure, so you put them at different scenes so you can easily choose between them and one will not interfere on the other. But let's turn this button here for now, and we will show all scenes at once. So as I said, this tree right here, let's take it and pretend this tree right here was at the apex of this corner right here. So we're going to use this button, the move button, or the F6 shortcut on the keyboard, and you can move it up and down with the right mouse button, and you can move it with the left mouse button. So let's put this tree right here. Let's just leave it at that, and we'll check that in game to see if it worked. So I'm going to save the GP4 file, and now I need to go back and rebuild this file here, this Montreal 2001 WAD that I extracted before. I need to rebuild it so the game can see the changes I made. So there are two ways of doing that with WAD Updater. The first, you select here a folder. For example, let's go here, Montreal. You can select this Montreal 2001 folder and then hit the create WAD button. It will repack all those files inside the WAD file, and you just copy that back to where it was. I will not use this option here because I have where is my track? Right here. I have created this TGA files folder, and this is useless for the game. The game doesn't use that. It's just something that will be taking up the space in the WAD file. So I will not be doing a complete create a WAD file completely right now. I'm just going to select a file with this button right here. So I'm going here and find the Montreal 2001 GP4 file, which was the only one that I modified. I was doing my work only in the 3D objects, so the GP4 file was the only one that I have made anything with it. And here the original WAD file that I'm going to work with. Choose the GP4 WAD to work with. So I selected the file and the target WAD. I'm just going to hit here update WAD, and that's done. It's a very quick procedure. So let's see if first let's check right here if the file was modified. It says 2018, so okay, it was modified. So let's open the game and we'll go around Montreal and see if the tree is where we put it. So let's select Montreal. Okay, quick erase, don't want to spend too much time on it. And here we go. I could have selected free practice. It's a bit better if you're going to test something, check something. Don't need to spend too much time on waiting for the red lights or worry about crashing into other cars. So let's just go up into that corner and hope that the tree is there waiting for us. There it is. That's our tree. Okay, so this is the basic process of doing modifications in GP4 tracks. You extract the WAD files, you open then the files you want with GP4 Builder, and then you put the modified files back into the WAD file, and then they should be visible in game. So I said that we're going to do something else. We're going to change a few sponsors. So let's open that GP4 file again in Montreal 2001 GP4. Let's do something at the beginning of the track so it's easier to check. I have selected this bridge here. So this HSPC bridge, and I'm going to, oh sorry, I can double click the object name here on this list, and you can open it and it will show you these different parts. These parts behave more or less like materials if you're using to work on other software. So each part has a different texture. So here's the main one, the HSPC texture, and other smaller that are these other structures of the bridge. So you can see here there is one texture for the pillars, one texture over here are these other structures. So let's select this part. I just clicked once with the mouse, left click, and right here on this window you can see here texture. It says here Montreal 2001 page 000, and with this button you can open the list of textures that we have in this track. Just choose another one For example, this here, this Casino Montreal, is on the texture. Or you can use this button right here. It's called the texture browser. You can see all the textures at once. It's much easier to find textures this way. So let's choose one texture from here and we will change the sponsor on this bridge. And let's go for Casino Montreal. And then I double clicked and the texture is updated. You can see that these parts right here and right here, it don't match as well as they did with the original texture. It was this 000. That's because of texture mapping, sorry. It's a completely different topic. We'll also be spending a lot of time talking about that. But for now, let's just change this one here. And while we are at it, let's change this one. Let's click this up to go back to the list of text of objects. So I can select another object, like this one here. This here is a curious case where I have two objects. One is the track wall. Three objects actually. I have another object starting here. I call this track wall 10 and 11. When you also have this part right here is called fence HSBC. You also have noticed that if I choose an object from the object list, the camera moves to center on the object. If I don't want that to happen, there is this button here, fix camera. I can choose other objects and the camera will stay at the same place. Let's go back to track wall 10. And let's change this guy over here. Fix camera. Open the object. You can also open the object with the page down key. Then you can go up to the object list with page up. Oh, let's go for that Honda sponsor. And we have to do this in all three objects. Another thing about texture browser. So when you select one of textures, it's no longer at the original place. It goes up here, a section called favorites, where it keeps your most recently used textures. Okay, so that's it. In the lower part, I'm going to the part above. Now it's number 12. And now there's a fourth object. Fourth and a fifth object. Good. So let's go and change all of that. So texture 12 was the Honda texture, and here as well. So, okay, so we've changed all the textures that we wanted for now. Now let's save the file. And close right here, go back to WAD Updater and do the same procedure. So this modified file right here, the Montreal 2001.gp4, we have to update this file inside the Montreal WAD. So the files are already here, it's the same as last time. I'll just click update WAD and done. And let's go in the game again. So we are hoping that the bridge is now with the Casino Montreal yellow sponsor, and that that section of the wall is now a Honda. I'm going to select free brackets so I don't have other cars running around me. So here it is, exactly as we have seen in GP4 Builder, and there is one collateral effect. Like, as you can see, this first sign right here was a part of the object. We go back to GP4 Builder and see what happened. So let's find our object that didn't go the way we wanted, right here under the bridge. So you can see that all this section of the wall is in the same object, track wall 10. So let's open it. I forgot to fix the camera. You can see that this part of the wall right here and this part of the wall right here, they are the same part inside the object. So when I change the texture in one of them, I change them both because to the game they are the same thing. So what can we do around here? We can open this part with double click on the mouse or the page down key, and we'll see a list of faces that are in this part of the object. So you can see here that face 0 is in this part of the wall, and face 3 is also here on this part of the wall. So I can select them both, just hold the control button and select both with the left mouse button. I'm going to edit folder, move to new part. So this will separate these two faces from the other ones. So we have this part left now with this section of the wall, and we have created a new part with just this section of the wall. So now we can change only these two faces to the other texture, the HSBC texture, and now it should be okay. Well, let's just check it to be sure. Let's update the GP4 file again. Again, everything's already correct here because we're doing the same thing once again. Update done. Let's open the game. This was actually not intended. I did not meant to show creating new parts. I didn't realize that the object was the same object for two different parts of the wall. Well, that's why you have to check your work very frequently, as things like that are easily... Okay, so here it is. Everything now as it should be. And that's it. That covers this introduction. There are a few more other functions on GP4 Builder that we can use for moving objects without creating something new. Cover them later. There are much more videos to be made, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Why am I opening Google Earth? Okay. So I hope you enjoyed this introduction. We will be back next week if everything goes as planned. So thanks for watching and see you later.